Michael Cole and Tom Pritchard here, third annual Brian Pillman Memorial Show, May 25th, 2000, Cincinnati, Ohio. 2,000 fans at the Schmidt Fieldhouse at Xavier University. And Dr. Tom, as we see Chris Benoit locking up with William Regal, you were a part of this great card on this historic evening. Tell us a little bit about the Brian Pillman tribute.
Obviously, wrestlers from all over the world wanted to come and pay tribute to Brian Pillman for all his great accomplishments in the business. And of course, the two wrestlers in the ring right now, Chris Benoit and Steve Regal, actually William Regal here in World Wrestling Entertainment, have really brought it up a notch. And this is a match that everybody who aspires to be a sports entertainment or professional wrestler should watch and study.
Well, Brian Pillman, of course, died of heart failure at 35 years of age, a tragic loss for the wrestling world. And I know for these two superstars in the ring here, Dr. Tom, it was very important for them to participate in this tribute.
Obviously, Chris Benoit was just in the World Wrestling Entertainment a short time before coming and doing this match against William Regal, who was actually a trainer in our developmental system at that time in Memphis, Tennessee, and both wanted to pay their tributes and respect to Brian Pillman.
Well, of course, Pillman and Benoit both trained in the historic Hart Dungeon in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Benoit and Pillman also a part of the Four Horsemen back in WCW, so their ties go way back. And for William Regal, this was important because this was his first match back after taking a long period of time off.
Obviously, yes, this was very important to both men. But as you said, Chris trained with Brian Pillman at the Hart's Dungeon in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and both of these men had something to prove. They both wanted to prove that they could go out and have a match in front of these people, in front of a sweat box like the Schmidt Fieldhouse. I mean, I say that affectionately because this is how we all really grew up in the business. Chris Benoit, 18 years before he finally got his first World Heavyweight Championship, came into this match, and I can remember watching this match from the stadium, from the seats, and I can hear the people saying boring in the first 4 minutes, but by the end of this match, as you'll see, everyone was on their feet. You can see the counters. Watch the counters back and forth in this match.
So, Dr. Tom, let's talk about the early going of the matchup here thus far. And I know that you show this match to a lot of your students to really teach them the psychology and what it takes to be in the ring. What is the importance now? What are they trying to do in the first part of this matchup, Regal and Benoit?
Both Regal and Benoit, being generals, are trying to set the pace. They're not letting the crowd dictate how they're going to run their match. Both Benoit and Regal are trying to counter and counter back. If you watch, both men have gone move for move, and this is how you set the pace for a match. Again, I say this, any aspiring wrestler or young superstar should watch this match, watch how these guys build the match, and go to it from there.
You've worked with, you've battled against some of the greatest performers in the history of this great business. And when you look at Benoit and William Regal, perhaps two of the greatest technical wrestlers in the history of this business.
Obviously, that's true to form when Chris Benoit holding the World Heavyweight Championship right now. And as you can see, William Regal has proved himself all over the world. And again, this goes without saying. When you ask anybody in this business, anybody who's been anywhere, will tell you the same thing.
Now look at the counters back and forth between Regal and Chris Benoit, and now the headbutts by the tenacious Benoit.
This is something I watched again, sitting upstairs watching this match, and I could see blood coming from Regal's face, and it was from one of those vicious headbutts given by Benoit. But you notice Benoit doesn't stop. It didn't do too much damage to him.
Well, that's why they call him the Rabid Wolverine. As Regal, with that big boot there, another counter by William Regal. And again, Chris Benoit being a part of this Pillman tribute, so important to Chris Benoit. Tom, him and Mr. Pillman, of course, very, very close. And I know Benoit was devastated when he was injured in 2001 and couldn't compete in the Memorial that year.
Well, Brian Pillman is near and dear to everyone he came in contact with because of his tenacity, because of how he was in the ring. He was a loose cannon, but that's what made Brian Pillman special. That's why Les Thatcher wanted to present this card and give every superstar who knew Brian the opportunity to come and perform in his honor. And I couldn't think of two better than Chris Benoit and William Regal, especially at this time. Benoit and Regal both have that tenacity. They both have that fire in the ring, and you can tell Chris Benoit is like a wrestling machine.
Tom, why do you choose this particular match between these two great athletes to use as an example to all of your students in your dojo?
I want them to watch how there's no wasted motion. There's no wasted movement, not a wasted punch, not a wasted kick. Everything is calculated. Even though they realize they're going hold for hold, they're going punch for punch, everything means something in this match. Every hold, every chance they get, you know there's jeopardy.
And one thing I noticed as well, neither of these athletes are playing to the crowd here. They're not pumping their fists. They're not jumping up and down on the ropes. They're concentrating on the task at hand, and that is trying to defeat their opponent in the ring.
One other thing we always tell young superstars when you get in the ring, you have to feel it. You have to understand you're not in there trying to play wrestler. You're not in there trying to perform. You're in there wrestling. And this is what Chris Benoit and William Regal do the best. They get in the ring and they wrestle.
Tom, at what point did you realize, following this sport over the years, that Chris Benoit was going to be the real deal?
Well, every match I've seen Chris Benoit in, I always thought he's the real deal. I've never seen a bad Chris Benoit match, and quite honestly, I've never seen a bad William Regal match. That's the mark of a true professional, consistency, and that's something you don't see too often from William Regal, but at the same time, Regal likes to pull things out of his hat that he hasn't used in a while. Standing drop kick by William Regal there as he continues the assault on Chris Benoit. And of course, William Regal, an interesting story in his upbringing in Blackpool, England, and getting started in the carnivals there in Blackpool. And Chris Benoit with an interesting start to his career as well, training with the Hearts in Calgary and really making his mark in Japan, Benoit did. Well, Benoit also grew up idolizing the Dynamite Kid, watching him in Calgary and getting some ideas from the high-flying techniques that he used, but also Benoit is very proficient in mat wrestling, and this is what he used in Japan. He stayed in the dojo, I believe, for over a year and a half, training with the young boys and getting the experience. It's a whole different culture, and it's a different way of living over there, and Chris Benoit brings that same tenacity to the ring with him in the States. And what were we just seeing there out of William Regal? That was a unique hold. Well, obviously that's a form of the Indian deathlock with a dragon sleeper applied, and Benoit was lucky enough to get out of it, because I don't care how tough you are, your body doesn't bend that way. And there's the patented German suplex from Chris Benoit that he's made so famous over the years. I tell you, Chris Benoit, what a great story, everything he's accomplished. Well, again, you have to have the passion. You have to want it in the ring, and this is something Chris has wanted his entire life. And again, being in that ring is something William Regal knows all so well, as Chris Benoit doesn't back down, and there Regal, with blood flowing down his face, returns the blows with a headbutt, and then vicious kicks to the chest. But if you notice, everything meant something. Right. It was a little wasted motion, as you mentioned. Now, you talked about in the early part of this matchup how the crowd was chanting boring. Now you can hear this crowd. They're chanting for Regal. They're chanting for Benoit. They're really on the edge of their seat for every counter here. What I really appreciated about this crowd is they were well-knowledgeable. Oh, man. They were knowledgeable about Benoit's history. They knew where Regal had been in his life before he got here. They understood the problems and the pitfalls both men have had, but now they've seen the passion. They've seen what these guys have put on in the ring, and they can appreciate it. Two great professionals, William Regal and Chris Benoit, and you saw how Benoit dropped to his knees there to counter that hold. Regal going for a double arm suplex, and Benoit, I guarantee you, when you wrestle Chris Benoit or William Regal, you are fighting out there, and that's, I don't care again how tough you are, when you get dropped on the back of your neck like that, you're gonna feel it. Chris Benoit calling, of course, for his patented flying headbutt off the top rope. He's been doing this for a number of years. We saw him do this in New Japan during the Super J Cup tournament. And William Regal with a great counter there. I'll tell you, what a tremendous matchup. Well, one more time, I'll say it. These guys have seen each other's style before. They've wrestled each other before. But going out there for the Brian Pillman Memorial, this is something special to both guys. Does that surprise you, Regal going to the top rope like that? Not when he's in the ring against a warrior like Benoit, because Regal wants to match hold for hold. He wants to match tenacity for tenacity, and Regal's going to pull out all the stops in a match like this. Well, so's Benoit, as we've noticed as well, as Regal into a cover here, and at that point, many people in the crowd may have thought it was over. And William Regal, again, tenacious as he continues to go for the covers here. Well, one thing I can say as a former wrestler myself, when I'm watching this match, I can feel the passion, I can feel the near falls, and I can tell how both men are really getting their groove in the ring.
Tom, how can a young wrestler, a young aspiring wrestler watching this matchup and seeing these two great warriors go at it, how can a young wrestler get to this point in his career? How can they develop this passion to have a match like this?
The only way you can do it is by doing it. There's no substitute. You can watch this match over and over again. Watch the timing, watch the moves, watch how Regal and Benoit do what they do. It's been a long time since I've been commentating on any match, Michael, and but I can tell you, watching this match brings out the passion in me because I know what these guys want to do.
With a guy like Benoit and a guy like Regal, in their younger days, if they had walked into the Tom Pritchard dojo, would you know right away that these two guys would have what it takes to make it as stars?
Well, I don't want to say of course, but of course. I can, because again, Regal has always been, you could always see that spark, and I saw Chris Benoit very early on in his career as well, and Chris always had that certain something that you can look at and see, hey, this guy's a natural.
When you're a trainer like yourself, what is that something? What is that intangible that the light bulb goes off in your head?
It's that intangible. It's that it factor. What is it? We don't know what it is a lot of times until we see it in the ring.
It's a feeling, I guess.
Definitely. If it looks good, you'll see it. If it sounds good, you'll hear it. If it's marketed right, you'll buy it. But if it's real, you'll feel it. And you look at these guys in the ring, Chris Benoit and William Regal are as real as it gets.
Well, this is real, and they're doing this for a great cause, for their friend Brian Pillman, who of course passed away. This is one of the memorial tournaments that they held over the years for Brian. And look at that counter there. A counter out of the pile driver and into another one.
These guys have been wrestling over 10 minutes right now, and they feel the exhaustion, but Chris Benoit is that rabid Wolverine. He's not going to stop.
And look at this. This time, Benoit, well, that time he missed with a headbutt as Regal rolled out of the way again. I was going to say, I thought that was it.
Both guys have given it their all in this match. Both guys don't have a lot left in their tank, but at the same time, take a look at this. Listen to the crowd. Listen to how the people are feeling it, as well as both guys in the ring.
Again, and this match isn't for anything per se. It's not for a title. It's not for national television, but that's what the passion for this great sport means and burns inside these two men. This is just performing. This is about athletic competition.
Exactly. Again, I said before, Benoit had been in World Wrestling Entertainment a few short months. Regal was down in Memphis with our developmental territory. Now the crippling crossface. Check this out.
And Regal tapped out. What a tremendous match.
This is the kind of match that wrestling should be about. This is what two great warriors like Chris Benoit and William Regal will bring back to modern day wrestling.
And again, if any aspiring person out there wants to be a superstar someday, everyone that is in that position should take a look at this matchup.
Most definitely. This is timing, this is feeling, and this is passion.